Welcome to our IFP training. So today we're going to learn about your interactive flat panel. We're going to learn some basics about your account, the board itself, how to interact with the software, everything that you need to know in order to get started using your board. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our MyViewBoard account. When you're at myviewboard.com, in the top right corner, there is a sign in button. We're going to click that sign in button. And when you choose that, it's going to give you all of the options for how you might be able to sign in. We're going to choose the one that we always choose. We're going to choose to sign in with Google. When you click on sign in with Google, it's going to ask you which Google account you want to use. You want to choose your Fayette County one, so we're going to choose that one. And then if this is the first time you're creating your account, it will ask you to authorize Google several different times. You want to authorize Google all of those times. You know you have successfully created your account when you get to a screen that looks like this. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to edit our MyViewBoard name. It defaults to be your email address, but that's really long, and that's how people are going to interact with your board. So we want to make it something short and sweet and easy to remember. So in the top right-hand corner, you're going to click on your icon. And once you click on your icon, you're going to click the Edit Account option. On this page, you're going to scroll down until you see the My View Board name field. You'll notice if this is the first time you're creating your account, it's going to be your email address. You want to make it something short and sweet, something that's easy to type. It is not case sensitive, so it does not matter if you use capital letters and lowercase letters. If it is something that's already taken, so somebody in the world already has a MyViewBoard name with that name, you will not be able to have one as well. So you will have to add a number or a letter or something like that. And you will know if that happens when you scroll down and you click confirm if it doesn't let you create your account because that name already exists. So if you click confirm, you will know you are successful when in the top right-hand corner, this MyViewBoard name is something that's short and sweet. It is no longer your email address. Once you've done that and completed this step, we're going to hop back to our whiteboard software and we're going to talk about some basics of the board. Today during this training, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with what we already did, creating your myviewboard.com account. That is done. Then we're going to talk about the basics of the board. So the physical board itself, the buttons, how to make sure that you know where all of the switches are. Then we're going to talk about the application basics of this whiteboard software. Next, we're going to talk about how to engage your classroom and have students or other adults interact with your board and throw pictures, do polls, quizzes, things like that. And then the last thing we have for you today is a basic tutorial that will get you more comfortable with some of the application's tools. So, what is an IFP? An IFP stands for Interactive Flat Panel. You might hear them called ViewSonics, but ViewSonic is the brand. Just like you can have a laptop that is either a Mac or a Dell, you can have an IFP that is either ViewSonic, ClearTouch, or many other brands. So when you hear IFP, we're talking about this big board with the computer on the back. With your board, you want to think about the board itself as a giant Android tablet that has a computer plugged into the back of it. So the tablet itself has an Android interface. It doesn't have internet. If you ever get to this screen, this is the Android interface part. You always want to make sure that you're clicking the PC button down at the bottom. Now, if that PC button isn't there, that means the computer itself is not on. So let's take a tour of the board. So with your board, if you look around the back side of the board, you'll see that there is a computer mounted up here on the back. So if for some reason you don't see the PC button on your board, it's probably because your computer is off and you have to press this power button right here to turn it on. If the power button doesn't have a light, that means it's not on. Both the computer and the board are plugged into a power strip that's down on this leg. So if for some reason your board is still not coming on or your computer's not coming on, double check and make sure that this switch is on. There is another switch on for your board underneath by the power cable. If for some reason the touch stops working, your board freezes, you can't figure out why the board isn't getting any power, try flipping that switch. That switch could be off. Also, every once in a while, this power cord wiggles free. You know your board is getting power because on the front, this power button has a light. So when your board is on, the light is blue. When the board is off, your light is red. And if there's no light at all, then somewhere the board isn't getting power. Double check that switch, double check the power strip. It could be lots of different places, but if there is no light, then the board is not getting any power. Next, these USBs in the front and these USB ports on the side, these interact with the board itself. So if you need to plug in a clicker or something to the computer, you want to make sure to use either the USB ports on the front or the back of the computer itself. If you plug something into the board, it is not going to work with the computer. The last troubleshooting step with the board itself involves this port right here. This port is a square-shaped port. This controls the touch for the PC. You'll notice on the port, it even says touch by the port. So if for some reason the touch isn't working on your IFP, the first thing that you want to double check is that this cord is plugged all the way in, both here and on the back of the computer. If those are plugged all the way in, then use the switch underneath, turn the board off, and then flip it back on and see if that resolves the touch issue. So when it comes to the interactivity parts of the board, you'll notice you have these little arrows on the left and the right-hand side. Those arrows are really great if you're standing up at your board and you need a quick and dirty way to write on your board. The downside to using those is you can't save it to the cloud because it saves with the Android side, which means that there is no internet. If you save anything that you do, it only saves on the board and it is not accessible anywhere else. The other thing about these arrows is you have to be standing up at your board in order to be able to use them. So if you have a wireless drawing tablet, you can't use these arrows. You have to use the writing interface that's built into the application. My recommendation is to always interact with your board through the My Viewboard Whiteboard software. It runs through your full Windows PC. You can connect your document camera. You can use different software if you have special software that you use for your classes. And the best part is you can interact with your board even if you're not next to it, if you have a wireless drawing tablet. So you can be standing in the back of the room, writing on your board, and save it and be able to use it later. Now we're done with our board basics. We've had our introduction to the board itself. We're going to jump into the application. On your desktop, the My Viewboard Whiteboard software is a yellow cloud, and it should be automatically loaded on your IFP's desktop. That is what you want to launch in order to interact with your board. Once you launch it, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the navigation panel. It is this panel in the bottom left corner. The first thing we're going to talk about is this four-sided arrow on the left-hand side. What this does is if you click on drag it, it lets you drag your navigation panel anywhere you want it on the screen. So if you actively are walking from one side of your board to the other, you can take it with you. You can move it if it's in the way of some writing that you have on the screen. You can put it anywhere on the screen that you want. Next, we have the presenter view button. When you click on it, brings your whiteboard software into full screen. You'll notice that once I've clicked on that button, I can no longer see the top bar or the Windows bar at the bottom. It makes it a full screen viewing experience. You still have your tools panel at the bottom and your navigation panel, but it just changes the look a little bit. The next tools we're going to talk about are these arrows right here. Those arrows navigate forwards and backwards through your viewboard, whiteboard pages. So when you think about your My Viewboard Whiteboard software, what you want to think about it as is it is a way for you to interact with anything on your IFP. Essentially, you create different pages, kind of like you create slides and slideshows, and you can create them ahead of time or just create them as you go. But what these arrows do is they allow you to navigate forwards and backwards through any pages that you have created. This tool, the page with a plus sign, will create a new page. So if you have written on your screen and you're ready for a new blank slate, when you click on that button, it brings you to a new blank page for you to mark up and put whatever images or text on that you want. The next button here, the page button with the number inside, that shows all of the pages that you have created so far. So if you preload a slideshow or any documents or anything into the whiteboard software, they will show up here. If you are creating things as you go, anything that you've created will be in here. But this is your page navigation. If you have a lot of pages, so you can see by my scroll bar that I've got quite a few pages and I've got 30, you can click on the button by the X and it will show you all of the pages that you have. And you can choose to navigate to particular ones. Also within here, you can duplicate pages by clicking in the double page in the top right corner. That will create a duplicate page. In the top left corner, there's a page with an X. You can delete any pages if you have accidentally created an extra or you decided you just didn't need that page anymore. You will notice it wants you to make sure you don't want that page because it can't be reversed. We'll talk about in a bit some of our different menus that come up when you're using the different tools, but within those submenus, there's usually a copy or a cut feature. However, there's not a paste feature. Your paste button always lives in this navigation panel so that it's easily accessible no matter what you're doing. The last two icons that we're going to talk about are the two yellow microphones. Now, you may not see them yet if you have your software launched because you do have to be signed into your Fayette County Viewboard account because it is a premium subscription item. However, these icons allow you to caption anything that you're doing. It is not going to translate, so you want to make sure that you have your captioning language set to whatever language you're speaking. But as long as you have a microphone plugged in to your IFP, then it can caption what you're saying live. Now, with the IFP, there is not a microphone installed on the computer. You need to plug in your webcam that you used to use with your desktop into the computer for the IFP, and that will act as your microphone. You'll notice captions are really great. They can sometimes be distracting. It's a great tool for you to use at your discretion. So now we're going to talk about some more little features within the program. Before we dive into our toolbar, we're going to talk about some of these miscellaneous buttons that you see around the outside. The first one that we're going to talk about is the sign in feature. So you might have noticed when you first launched the program that there was a pop-up window in the bottom right corner. There are several more features that are available once you've signed in, like the captioning tool and some others that we'll talk about later. In order to get signed in, if that pop-up window is not there, down in the bottom right-hand corner, there will be a little shadow of a person icon. You'll click on that, and then you want to click the Sign In with Google button. There is a companion app that goes with this software. Its logo is the same yellow cloud that you see in the top left corner of your screen. Again, it's called Companion. That allows you to sign in quickly and also interact with your board in different ways. So if you have that downloaded to your phone, all you have to do is open that app, scan the QR code through the Companion app, and it will sign you in without you having to click and sign in with Google. So the next thing that we're going to talk about are our settings. It is the gear in the top right corner. The first helpful thing is changing your default font. The default font size is 20. If your default font size is 20, when you go to use your font tool or your text tool and you go to write, it ends up being pretty small. So I like to go ahead and change my default text size to something larger that's easier to see, something that I would consistently want anytime I add new text. And that's a little bit bigger. That way I can add text and I don't have to change the size every time that I add it. The other helpful thing within the settings gear is in the second settings option, choosing this auto run at Windows startup, saying, yes, I want that to auto run. That way, every time you turn on your IFP and you log into the computer, this program will automatically launch. You don't have to remember to launch it every time that you sign in. These settings do not save across devices. So if you log in to an IFP for practice or you're in a neighbor's classroom, these settings will not save to your account. You would have to reset them up. However, once you set them up for the first time on your IFP and your board, they will save every time. You'll notice that there is an autosave feature that is enabled to autosave every 10 minutes. Your board will automatically save for you in case something crashes. However, it is not a live save like a Google Doc or a Google Slide. So you want to make sure if you're making a lot of changes on a regular basis that you're actively saving your board. The next thing that we're going to talk about are our notifications. If anyone tries to interact with your board, you'll hear a sound and then you'll have a little notification up here. The bell in the top will have a number in it and it will show you a preview of your notification. So if anyone is trying to throw a picture to your board, share their screen with your board, if for some reason anything happens in the program and it has an error, it will come up as a notification. We're going to talk about this other icon in the top that's red and the one in the top left in a little bit. But the next one we want to talk about, and the last one on this page, is our background editor. So the background editor is in the bottom left corner. It is a gray icon with mountains. If you click on that, there are preloaded backgrounds that you can set for every page or just one page. So if you like a background, you can click on it and say, I want to apply this background to either every page or just this page. You want to make sure you choose the correct option and then it will add it to the page. Now let's say that you don't like any of those background options. There are a couple more features for you. So if you click on the color panel in the bottom left, that will let you just change the color of your page. Or you can click on the grid button and it will add some grids to your page. You can just turn those on and off pretty easily. If you don't just want a color, you don't like the preloaded backgrounds, you can click on the shape that's kind of like a teardrop. It's red, blue, and yellow. If you click on that, it brings you to the My View Board backgrounds section. So you can click on any category or you can just see them all. You'll notice that if you click on them, there are ones that have a little crown by them. Those are ones that are paid. So You can pay for different backgrounds and things, but otherwise, if you find a background you like, when you click on it, you want to choose the resolution in the bottom right corner that you want for your board. And then again, it will ask you, do you want it applied to this page or all of them? Once you apply it, you'll see that it's the background of your page. You can't edit it, you can't change it unless you change your background, so it won't get erased. And then you'll notice that it's not on all of my other slides. Next, we're going to talk about this tools panel in the bottom. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that almost every tool can be double clicked for more options. So if you tap twice on a tool, there are extra features. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about our pen tool. So the basics to it are when you click on the pen tool, there are 3 colors above. You can click on it and write. With your pen itself has 2 sides, the fat side and the skinny side. Anytime you use your finger or you use the wireless tablet stylus or you're using the fat side, it's going to keep the settings for whatever you click on the fat side in terms of color. So right now I have the fat side set to purple. If I press on yellow with the skinny side of my pen, next time that I write, it will write in yellow. So you can do different things with the different ends of your pen. If you click on your pen tool again, you'll notice you have several different options. Within the pen itself, you have a slider for how thick or how skinny you want your pen to write. You have an opacity slider. So if you don't want something to be full color, you can make it fade. The color options are just going to set your pen initially. You'll notice that it doesn't change the colors up above. If you want to change those colors to something you'll use more often, you just click on that color, you double click on it, and you'll have several different colors to choose from. You're also welcome to change the color to anything within the color spectrum. Just know that if you do that, it doesn't save as a new color in the bottom. So you'll have to remember this hex code over here or the RGB colors or use your pen tool or your eyedropper tool to ever use that color again. So while it's exciting that you can make any color, they don't save down here as a preset. So you'll have to find that color every time you want to use it. You click OK, and it changes the default color, one of those 3 bubbles down there, to something else. Next, you've got a paintbrush tool. When you use your paintbrush tool and you write, my paintbrush is pretty skinny. Let me make it fatter so you can see the effect. You'll notice that different strokes have different widths, just like if I were writing with a paintbrush. This is your highlighter tool. This changes how skinny or fat you want your highlighter. You'll notice there are not quite as many options for your highlighter colors, but when you use your highlighter, it will be as wide and whatever color you select. This next tool I think is pretty cool. This is a laser highlighter. What this does is it makes it so that you can highlight something and then wait about 5 seconds and it will go away. So it's a really cool tool for temporary highlighting if you just want to draw attention to something and then have it go away. Your last tool is an AI tool. What it's going to do is it's going to find any shapes, any kind of characters that look like what you're drawing. So if I draw a sun, over here, it's going to find any kind of thing that resembles the shape that I drew. Sun is probably a bad idea. Let's see if I draw a cat. You'll see there are several animals, cats, things like that. You can click on whichever one you want, drag it out, and it will add it to your board. All right, so our next tool that we're going to talk about is the shape tool. The shape tool allows you to draw different shapes. When you click on a shape, you'll notice it will give you your measurements. You can change it from metric to US units in your settings in the top right. The cool thing about your shape tool is Once you draw a shape, if you want to immediately write on it without having to go back to your pen tool, if you use the skinny side of your pen, it will, you don't have to click back on the bottom tool panel and change it to your pen. You will notice that it will keep whatever settings you set before. So I set the yellow skinny side, or the skinny side, to be yellow. It is still in yellow. The skinny side is also a little hard to read from far away. So I would caution you against using the skinny side of the pen for your students in the back. But if you have a small group instruction and everyone is pretty close to the board, it's a really cool feature to be able to flip back and forth from drawing your shape to just writing on it. If you double click on your shape tool, you'll notice you have lots of different shapes available. So you can make different sided figures, you can make pentagons, hexagons, you can make 3D figures, and you can change the color of their lines. You can make different arrows, so you can quickly make axes, you can make curved arrows. You'll notice that you can make your line either dotted or solid if you want to make lines. You can also make a table. If you make a table, you want to kind of highlight over how many cells you want, and then you can make your table. Now you'll notice that the next thing we're going to talk about is our select tool. So you'll notice that anytime you click on an object, it has a submenu that pops up. The submenus are different depending on what object you're clicking on. So the shapes have a submenu than if you click on your text or if you click on your AI picture. There are a couple consistencies with these submenus. So the first one, if you just want to trash whatever you have clicked on, is your trash can. It will delete it. The second one is pretty cool. What it will do is it will lock your item so that you can't move it, you can't accidentally erase it, you cannot resize it. It is locked where it is in its current state. The second one locks it so that you can move, or sorry, the third one, the red one with the arrows, locks it, but locks it in a way so you can still move it. So you can't resize it, you can't erase it, but you can move it anywhere on your screen if you wanted to. Another important one is the pages. So it's a yellow page with a gray page behind it. That is your copy feature. The next one with the scissors is your paste. You have a little paint palette. You can change the color. If you're like, oh, I forgot to change the pen when I made it. I want this square to be orange. You can change it. You can fill it with different colors. So there are a lot of different options within these submenus. Also with the select tool, the way the select tool works is if you click on a single object, it's just going to select that object. If I select my text, it's just going to select hello. If you want to select more than one thing, all you have to do is draw a line that touches both of those items, and it will select both of the items. So within your submenu, there's a gray box with a yellow box and a white circle inside it. It's in the third row. What that's going to do is that's going to group your objects together so that anytime you go to move it from now on, they'll be grouped and you don't have to choose them both. So if you want to select text, you want to make sure to select all of the words, draw a line through everything, and it will select everything all together. It's not necessarily circling. You can circle, but you don't have to. So for things like writing, it might be easier to just draw a circle around everything you want, but be careful. You'll notice that my circle went pretty big and I selected things that were not just the words love and hello. So the next tool we're going to talk about is our hand tool. Our hand tool is what allows us to use an infinite canvas. So in this software, you can go up and down and side to side. You can go any direction an infinite amount. You can also zoom. So if you wanted to zoom in on this note right here and have it be the focus of your class, When kids come in and you have other stuff built on the screen, all you have to do is the pinching motion. So you, just like you would zoom in on your phone or a tablet, you pinch two fingers out and that will zoom in, and then take your two fingers and pinch them together to zoom back out. Something that was always frustrating to me was I was like, man, this isn't zoomed back to 100%, and I'm getting it to 99 or 104, and it's not perfectly centered. Well, if you remember this note right here, that almost every tool can be double clicked for more options, if you click on your hand tool again, you'll see your whole canvas. So the dotted line is what your current view is, and then anything else that you see is on the canvas, you just can't see it. In order to reset it, you click the little circular arrow in the top right, and that will reset it back to 100% and recenter your canvas. The next tool we're going to talk about is our text tool. So with our text tool, it is the T at the bottom here, this guy right there. So when you click on that, you can type, and it's pretty straightforward. If you click your text tool again, you'll notice it goes to a more scripty lettering. What that does is it allows you to write on your board. And then you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner of your navigation panel right here, there is an A with an arrow. When you click on that, it's going to take your handwriting and it's going to convert it to text. Now you'll notice your formatting changes. This plus sign is here because of the arrow that I drew. This guy right here is because I drew an arrow pointing down to the symbol, so it thought that was text it was supposed to edit. You'll notice in my writing, I had these in two separate lines, and it made it as one solid line. So when using this text-to-type tool, what you have to remember is your formatting won't stay and your placement on the screen won't stay. Wherever you start writing is where the text will start, but if you have something where you want a question over here, and then you want a separate question over here, if you click that convert to text button, it's just going to lump them together and it's not going to keep them in the same areas of the board. So if you want text in different areas, different lines, you have to make sure to write them in those places individually. Click the script to text button in between and do them as individual text to type or handwriting to type parts. The next tool that we're going to talk about is our eraser tool. So our eraser tool is pretty straightforward. If you click on your eraser and you don't click on any of the submenus, all that it's going to do is give you a little circle for you to erase what you see. You'll notice if you erase over an object, it will erase the whole object. So when it comes to the handwriting, you can erase little pieces of it. When it comes to objects, you will just erase the whole object. Within the eraser tool, the tool in the middle is a trash can that looks like trash is being thrown into it. What that is going to do is it's going to clear the strokes. So any handwriting, it's not going to delete any shapes. It's not going to delete any pictures. So when you clear all of your strokes, you get the option to apply it to all of your pages or just this page. The advantage to applying it to all of your pages is if you have a slideshow that you're doing with every class and you've preloaded it in the software and you just want to delete everything you wrote so that it's fresh for the next class, you don't need to save it, you didn't do anything unique to that particular class period, you can apply your stroke erasing to every page and it will delete all of your writing on every page. Otherwise, you can say just apply it to this page and you'll notice that anything that I hand wrote on this page is now gone, but the shapes and the other things that I added are still here. The last tool in the eraser is the trash can. If you click on that, it's going to delete everything that is not locked on your page. So you'll notice that it didn't delete this text that's tool panels, but if you look in the bottom left, there's a little lock icon. I locked these figures so that they wouldn't get deleted or erased by accident. This one is locked but movement. So if you lock something, it's not going to be deleted if you use your trash can. The last thing is if you double click on your eraser tool, because remember every tool can be double clicked for more options, you'll notice you can change the width of your eraser if you need it fatter or skinnier. There is also a lasso eraser. So let's say you want to erase some strokes and some figures, but not all of them. Your lasso eraser allows you to circle around several things and erase them. All right. So your toolbox, your magic toolbox, in your magic toolbox, there are a lot of cool features. So the first one are your Post-it notes. If you grab a Post-it note color and you drag it out, you'll have the option to either hand write on the Post-it note, and it will look like that, or you can use text and you can type on your Post-it note. It will stay with your default font size. So if you don't change it from that default font size of 20 and you just type, you'll notice it's pretty small on this screen, but then when you minimize your Post-it, you cannot even read that text. And your Post-its are not resizable. You can move them around the screen, so you can put a Post-it by a particular prompt and say, hey, this is from page 12. And you could put a different Post-it and say, this has to do with your overall theme. But you can't resize them to make them bigger or smaller. When you click on them, you have a submenu, so you can change their color. So if you don't like the color you originally chose, you have 4 Post-it note options. The other thing that you can do is you can change your layering. So if you want your Post-it to be on top, you can say, hey, I want this Post-it to be on the top layer, and you can move it up to the top layer and it will sit above. Ooh, I clicked the wrong button. Well, that's what the weird spinner does. Not really sure why you would do that because it orients your text in a weird direction and you can't really fix it. But when it comes to your layering, you can move it up or down, and it can move on top or below other features that you have on your screen. Next in your magic toolbox are all of these tools. So the first one is a clock. If you use this tool, it defaults to being your the current time of day. You can set it to be different times. So if you're a math teacher and you're measuring angles between clock hands, you can set it to that. If you're practicing reading clocks and you want to read a different time, you can say, hey, what time is this? You can reset it. You can choose a random time. You can say, so there's not numbers and there's only lines. And then you can reset it back to today's time with the ticking hands. The next tool is a built-in timer and stopwatch. This tool is exactly what it says it is. It's pretty straightforward. There is a ruler, a right edge tool, a protractor, and a compass. Those are all very helpful. They're cool because they are see-through, so you can measure things. You can draw a line and say, how long is this line? And despite the fact that it'll tell you when you draw it, that will go away and you can say, well, that line looks like it is 10 centimeters, and you can practice your ability to measure. The right angle, protractor, and compass tool all work very similarly. There's a little on-screen calculator. There's a coordinate plane. So if you're wanting to do some quick and dirty point plotting and line drawing, you can say, hey, here's my line. What's the slope of my line? There is an equation writer. So if you write equations a lot, you can do handwriting equations, insert it onto your board, and it will insert for you. It inserts with whatever your pen color is. So if your pen color is red, it's going to insert as red. If your pen color is yellow, it will insert as yellow. There are flashcards. You can ask a question, enter a question, have it flip, and have the answer. So there are some built-in flashcard tools. There are dice. The dice don't work very well with the computers that we have attached because our computers don't have the best graphics cards, but you can still kind of see them if you move it around. You can see the die more. You can add more die and roll them. So cool for probability. Downside is they're hard to see. There's a magnifying tool and a spotlight tool. Those are very much what they seem like. Your curtain tool is pretty cool because you can cover up anything on your screen. So if you want to have a bell ringer at the top and you want to have the answer below, you can have that already typed up and ready to go for your class. The curtain tool is essentially just a curtain the size of your screen, so you can move it all around. You can show a lot of your screen. You can just hide part of it. You can actually change your background of your screen on this little panel on the right, and change what it looks like, change its size, all sorts of things like that. Your next tool is for a camera, so it can be for a webcam or a document camera. You'll notice when you click on it, hello. You can change your resolution. You can pause it if you want to freeze your screen. You can rotate it if it's a document camera that's rotated weird or mirrored. You can also take screenshots. So anytime that you see this circular symbol that looks like a camera lens, that allows you to take a screenshot and it will insert it into your whiteboard. You'll notice also over here on the right, there's a little pen tool. So you can click on your pen tool and write and say, hey, this is the really important thing that we're doing today. And then you can take a screenshot of it and it will insert it into your whiteboard. Your next tool is to insert YouTube videos. So if you were to import a slide deck into the MyViewBoard Whiteboard software, anything that's interactive, so a YouTube video, a GIF or a GIF, however you like to pronounce it, anything that moves or changes is going to be static when it's imported. Essentially, your slideshow will be imported as background images. So if you're creating a slide deck and you have one video, it might be helpful for you to just add the video into it manually. You can search for videos, and you want to search for whatever particular title you need. And then when you're ready to put it in your slideshow, you just drag and drop it in. What you'll notice is once you start playing your video, in these video tools down here in the bottom right, none of these tools are interactivity tools. If I try to draw on my screen, I can draw underneath it, but I don't actually end up drawing on the video itself. So if you're needing to interact with the video, once you start playing it and you get to the part where you want to interact.
Somewhere out there in the solar system, orbiting the sun every 271 days, is an asteroid called 2023 DW that was recently spotted when it came within just 9 million kilometers of Earth.
What you want to do is you want to click this screenshot button. It looks like a camera lens. And what that's going to do is that's going to take a screenshot of your video and it's going to put it on your canvas. Once you have your screenshot in your whiteboard, you can interact with it. You can say, oh, this is my Earth, and we're going to talk about that later. But you do have to take that screenshot, and that's how you have to interact with any video that's on your screen. You can also make your video full screen, or you can exit out of it. In your Magic Toolbox, there's also an image search. So you can put pictures directly into your whiteboard stuff. You just drag and drop it out or double click it and it will put it on your whiteboard. The next tool has some animations that MyViewBoard has created. There is nothing in the corporation file. I think it's because we have an education account. So if you click on the education account and you go into a subcategory, you drag and drop your animation out, They all have two options on them. So the first one I've discovered usually makes noise, and it usually ends. The second one often will go on forever. So if you want a zebra on your whiteboard presentation and you want him to be just walking along all day long, you can add him and he will walk 100 miles. All right, so the little paper airplane is where if anyone's interacting with your board, if anyone's, sorry, this is very distracting for me, this little walking zebra. Um, if anyone is trying to throw something to your board, they're trying to send a picture to your board or anything like that, it will come into this paper airplane folder. So it's just like throwing a paper airplane. The next feature is a quiz feature. So this is a really cool, quick tool for a check your understanding during class. And you can just say, what are the primary colors? These quizzes you can't create ahead of time. However, they're not meant to be a full-blown quiz. It's just a quick check your understanding during class. You can limit it to one answer per student, or you can have it so that they can answer as many times as they want. When you click on the QR code in the bottom, it's going to bring them to your board's URL. So anytime anyone wants to interact with your board, whether you want them to send a picture, you want them to do a poll, you want them to do a quiz, it is the same QR code and the same URL that they'll use. When they go there, they will have the option to put in any name that they want. So it's just kind of like Kahoot. You have to have good classroom management and make sure that your students are putting in an appropriate name. And then when they get there, they'll have the three options. They'll have the option to do a pop quiz, a poll, or upload a file. So if you are doing a quiz, you want to make sure you say, hey, students, you're going to click the pop quiz button, and then you're going to type your answer. They will have a little screen that they'll be able to draw on, and they can send it to the board. Once someone sends something to the board, you'll see that it pops up in the corner. It will default to not showing anyone's answers, but it will show their name. If you want to show all of the answers at once, there's a little A button in the bottom left corner that will show every answer at once. If you just want to click on individual students' answers, if you just click on the box, it will reveal their answer. You can click on it again to hide it. Forgot about that zebra. So the next one is a poll. These you can make ahead of time and save in your whiteboard session. So there are multiple choice, true, false, rating, free format, voting, and random draw options. When you go to make one, in the bottom left, you have to choose a countdown time. The minimum amount of time that you can give students is 30 seconds because everything is in an increment of 0 or 30. But when students are answering, you have the option to stop the timer. So once you have your questions created, you'll see them on the right-hand side. You can choose to actually show the questions, or you can hide them if you don't want them to see them ahead of time. But when you click on one, it will come up to this screen, and you can click on the play button, and that will give any of your participants, any of your attendees, the option to answer your poll. They, again, will go to your URL, your link. And then once you click the play button, you'll notice in the top right, you'll see how many attendees you have. You'll see who they are. And then when students interact with it, it's going to ask what's their favorite cheese. To show your answers, you click the 3 lines at the bottom, and it's going to say, hey, my answer is brie. For a random draw, it does use the countdown, but the kids can't interact with it. You usually want to just start it and then stop it, and you can see, hey, these are the people who won the prize today. The last thing in your Magic Toolbox that is super important is your Google Drive icon. So as long as you're signed into the whiteboard application, your Google Drive will automatically load. This is the best way to import a Google slide or a document, a PDF, anything that you want into a whiteboard presentation that you already have going. So if you started a bell ringer and then that was on maybe one slide deck, and you have your main lesson for the day on a different slide deck, and you want them all in the same whiteboard because you're going to do them with your different classes, you want to import those through the Magic Toolbox. When you go to your drive, you'll see all of your folders just like normal. And then it will show you all compatible formats of your files within your drive. When you click on a slideshow, you'll notice at the bottom it'll say downloading, and then you will see a preview of all of your slides. You can choose in the bottom left to select them all if you want all of them. If you only want a couple of them, you can select a couple or deselect a couple. But again, the important thing is in the bottom right, when you import them, you want to make sure you import them the correct direction. So slides are usually landscape, lots of documents are usually portrait. By importing them the correct direction, that means they're going to be zoomed correctly on your canvas. You can always zoom in or out if you import them the wrong direction, but when you import other things or you add screenshots or things like that, they're going to be sized differently if you accidentally use the wrong import. So I'm going to import these as landscape. And you will notice if you go to your page viewer that these two slides imported after the slides I had already created. Everything I already created for this slide deck or for this presentation are still in here. Everything we did before is still here, but these slides have been inserted as new pages in the whiteboard software. You can then write on it. You can do whatever you want, and you can interact with it that way. Again, when you import slides, anything that's interactive on your slide is not going to import because essentially it imports it as like a background image. You can also import PDFs. You can import Google Docs. The cool thing about importing something that is vertical like a worksheet is that you can zoom in, write on it, and zoom out, and your writing stays the same size. Again, I click on it, you'll notice the downloading bar at the bottom recognizes that I clicked on it. It's going to show me the pages. So if I import all of these pages, I want to import them as portrait. You'll notice if I use my hand tool and I zoom in, then I can write on it. And when I zoom back out, my writing stays the same size. So that's really helpful for worksheets if you're filling in a worksheet so that you can zoom in, write a size that's appropriate for the blank, and then zoom back out and your writing is still there. The next tool that we're going to talk about is our file manager tool. It is the yellow icon on the bottom toolbar on your tools panel. When you click on your tools, your file manager, you'll notice you have very standard options here. The first one is to make a whole new whiteboard file. If you click on that, if you're ever asked to save, what that means is it's going to close your current whiteboard file and it is going to open a brand new one. So if you're ever asked to save and you were like, oh no, I meant to just add something into this current one, you want to cancel out whatever you're doing that caused that pop-up window to come up. If you're like, yes, it's time to create a whole new file, click new, we're going to click save, and it will make a whole new file for you. If you want to open something, so if you want to start off your whiteboard with something that you've already created, if you want to open a Google slide and start with that and then add pages to it afterwards, you can open things directly from here by clicking the yellow open button. There is save and save as. There is export as a PDF. However, this QR code feature will also print your whiteboard workbook as a PDF, and it will create a QR code and a short link for you to use in that moment. So if you click on the QR code, it's going to confirm that you want to share your whiteboard session. It will default also to saving a copy of it in the My View Board folder in your Google Drive. And then it will come up with a QR code and a short link that students can scan in that moment. The thing that you do want to remember is, first off, after you exit this QR code is going to go away. So if you do want to save it forever, you want to use your screenshot tool, which at the bottom is our gray tool with the camera lens in it. You want to take a screenshot, you can do the whole screen, a freeform screenshot, or a rectangular screenshot. So I'm going to do a rectangular one. I'm just going to take a screenshot of this so that I have both the short link and the QR code here forever. The tricky part to that is anytime you make any changes to your whiteboard, it will not update in the QR code because essentially you're printing to a PDF. If you want to delete an object because you were like, oh man, I didn't mean to have this orange square on here when students see this. This was just something we were doing as a demo. They don't need that for whatever they're working on. You'll have to create a new QR code because the QR code is static. It's not going to update with any changes you make. Just like if you print something to a PDF and you change something later, it doesn't change on the PDF. So we talked a little bit about our camera lens. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. With your camera lens, you'll notice in this submenu, the first one does a full screen screenshot. So if you click on that, it's going to screenshot your screen and then put it on top of your current screen. Anytime I use this, I always forget that I probably want to make a new page. But the lucky thing is it's really easy. All you have to do is click on it. Your submenu pops up. And if you click on the scissor tool to cut it, it will go away. You can create a new page. And then you can click on your paste button down in this navigation panel, and it will paste it here, and you can make it bigger. Other tools in your screenshot menu, where did it go? Are freeform screenshots, rectangular ones. The next one will do a screencasting, and the last one will do audio recording. So we have two more tools to talk about today. I went a little bit out of order. The one we're going to talk about first is your Chrome icon. So in your tools panel, you'll notice that you have a Chrome icon there. It is a quick way to launch the internet. It has several recommended bookmarks that ViewBoard knows that teachers use a lot. So if you're a math teacher, it's really easy to get to Desmos quickly. If you're a chemistry teacher, there's a Chemix website with widgets on it that you can use. You can also go to any website. Within this tool, you can utilize the bottom bar menu and you have annotation tools. You have a screenshot tool. You have a tool that will insert a widget onto the page in your whiteboard canvas. The unfortunate part about this browser is every time you close the whiteboard application, you have to sign back in. So it's not necessarily the most convenient way to interact with websites that you have to sign into. For example, Google. It's not the best way to interact with your Google Slides. Savvis, you would have to sign in every time you use it. However, it is a really cool way to utilize some tools that you wouldn't necessarily have to sign into. For example, if you're using Desmos and you want to be graphing a line, what you can do is you can use your pen tool down here and you can say, all right, students, we are going to count our slope between our points. So if we have a point here and we have a point here, what is our rise and run between those 2 points? You can take a screenshot of it by clicking the camera lens tool and it'll put it in your whiteboard canvas. It is a little blurry. Every screenshot I've taken through this Chrome app that's built into the whiteboard software has been a little blurry. You'll notice that if I click on the pen tool when I'm writing within the browser, my annotations go away, but as soon as I click on it again, they reappear. They don't go away unless you actually erase them. It doesn't matter if you take a screenshot or not. You have to actually go to your eraser tool and either erase them manually or click on the trash can button to get rid of your annotations. You have minimize and maximize buttons, so you can make it full screen. You can minimize it, and next time that you open it, it will be in the same place. The cool part about this browser is you can add widgets to different pages on your canvas. So if you know that on this page in your whiteboard canvas, you know you're going to have students be graphing a lot of equations. And we're going to say, I want you guys to figure out which of these two lines are perpendicular to each other using Desmos. I'm going to give my students time to do it on their own, but then I want to do it with them. What you can do is you can click the button next to the screenshot tool. It has 4 boxes and a plus sign. And what it's going to do is it's going to add a widget on this page for Desmos. You'll notice anything that I already had in there doesn't save. If I type something in here right now, and I change the page, I go back and I come forward, it doesn't save it. However, it is really helpful to go ahead and preload this Desmos widget onto this page if you know that you're going to do it with them in class. That way you don't have to spend the time opening Desmos and navigating to the page. It's already there for you. So again, every time you go to this page, it is going to essentially refresh the website on this screen. The widget tool is really cool for things like Desmos that you don't have to be signed into. Other widgets, other demonstration websites, if you have to sign into the website every time that you launch the whiteboard software, so the whiteboard software closes and you reopen it, you're going to have to sign back into that website. So it may not be the most convenient tool for websites that you have to sign into, but it is a really cool tool for adding widgets for other websites into different pages on your Canvas. The last tool that we're going to talk about is my favorite tool for interacting with your computer outside of the whiteboard software. The last tool that we're going to talk about is the Windows icon. You'll notice in the bottom left of your tools panel, you have 4 blue squares. It looks just like the icon in the bottom left of the computer that brings you to all of your regular computer navigation. When you click on the Windows icon within the whiteboard software, it brings you to your desktop. You'll notice that over here on the right-hand side, you still have your whiteboard toolbar. You can move this toolbar around if you need to. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to interact with any software that you use, if you use Adobe products or specialized products for your classes. It also allows you to utilize the internet and use all of your regular bookmarks. If you're already signed into all of your programs, you're signed into Google, you don't have to sign in again like you did if you used Chrome through the whiteboard software. A couple of things that you need to know in order to use the Windows icon to annotate on your screen. When you look at the icon, you'll notice your bottom tool is the pen tool. When you click on that, it opens up all of the tools that will help you annotate or let you use tools directly on the desktop screen. So I have my pen tool, I have an eraser, the shape and the text tool, undo and redo, select. I also have my magic toolbox, so you can launch any of your tools without having the whiteboard as your background. You can have a particular website. If you wanted to measure how long Bryan Station High School is on this website, you can utilize those tools on your desktop and within different programs. In order to get back to being able to navigate your desktop and click on things and interact with websites or programs, you have to click on the mouse tool. When you click on that mouse tool, that's what is going to allow you to scroll on a website, change a website. If you're working in a particular program, interact with that program. So clicking on that mouse tool allows you to interact like you normally would with a mouse and a keyboard. As soon as you click on the pen tool, you're officially in whiteboard mode. So if you were to try to scroll, you'll notice I just draw a line on that right-hand side. Nothing actually happens because I'm in the annotation mode. If you do want to intentionally annotate a screen and you want to say, hey, students, when you come to the Bryan Station High School website, the first thing you want to do to access any quick links is click on the menu button over here on the right-hand side. Once you click on your mouse tool, you'll be able to click on that menu button, but you'll see that your annotations don't go away. There are 2 ways to get your annotations to go away. The first is if you wanted to keep this, so if you're doing a presentation and you want to make sure students have this forever, you can click your screenshot icon and you can take a screenshot of the page and it's going to put it in your whiteboard software. Something I am bad about forgetting to do is I'm bad about forgetting to make a new page. You'll see my screenshot was just put on top of everything else I had open. However, if you click on your screenshot and you click on your scissor tool, that's going to cut your screenshot. You can quickly and easily go to your navigation panel in the bottom left, click on New Page, and then click on the paste icon in that same panel, and it will paste your screenshot onto this blank page. You can use your fingers and pinch to make it bigger and make it a full screen screenshot. And then if I'm going to go back to navigating on my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and preemptively make a new blank page for any screenshots that I take, and then I'm going to click my Windows icon. You'll notice my annotation, that purple circle is gone because I took the screenshot. When I click here and I say, okay, after you click on menu, you want to click on the Students tab, and that will bring you to any resources that you may need. Let's say that I don't need to take a screenshot of this step. I just want to be able to click on it and move on with our lives. In order to get rid of your annotations, you have to erase them. So you have to click on your eraser tool and either manually erase some of the things you don't want, or use your trash can to just go ahead and delete everything all at once. You do have to click on your mouse tool again to get back to your screen to be able to navigate within your internet. But in order to erase annotations that you do, there's two ways to get rid of them. You either take a screenshot or you have to use your eraser tool. Otherwise, they'll stay on the screen no matter where you're going. In order to get back to your whiteboard software, you'll notice if in the bottom of the start bar, if I just click on my whiteboard icon, nothing happens because your whiteboard is still launched and it's actually still in the forefront of what program you're using. If you still have that tool over on the right-hand side, that toolbar, you still have whiteboard open. So in order to get back to your pages, the things you've pre-built or created already, you have to click on the whiteboard icon. Again, a quick recap, in order to get to your desktop, you have to click on the Windows icon. But then to get back to your whiteboard software, you have to click on the whiteboard icon. So utilizing those two buttons will help you switch back and forth. All right, so the last major thing we're going to talk about today is classroom engagement and interaction with your board. So if you want a student to interact with your board, if you want that to throw a picture of students' work or their project to your board, how to do those quizzes and polls, and a couple other features. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is participation mode. On your board in the bottom left corner, there are two icons. We talked about the first one earlier. This second one with the little people heads is your participate mode. When you click on that button, what it allows you to do is have multiple students write on your board at the same time and have different colors while they're writing. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that you can set 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6 students to be able to write on your board. This error message will pop up every time that you are using it. So you just want to click OK and just know that you want your students to use their finger to draw. They don't need to use a pen. So the cool feature is you can have people writing on your board in all 3 locations in different colors at a time. If you make 6 people, it makes 2 rows worth of boxes. You can use the up and down arrows to flip-flop them. So if you have students in the back of the room, you can always talk about the top row of boxes and just flip-flop them and say, okay, now we're talking about the gray, blue, and yellow boxes, when before we talked about the green, pink, and gray. The broom tool deletes everything off of the board. And then the last one is a tool that you will or button you will never use. It's designed so that if this tablet were flat on a tabletop, everyone has their little palette facing them. So you will probably never use that because we're never going to take these off and put them horizontally. To get out of participate mode, you click the X in the bottom right corner, and you're back into your regular whiteboard mode. The next way that people can interact with your board is through the My View Board name and URL. So you can send files, you can share screens, you can have students participate in quizzes or polls like I showed you earlier, or you can project your laptop screen. The first thing you want to do is what we did at the very beginning of this training. You want to customize your My View Board name so that it's short and sweet and easier for people to type. If you didn't do that with me at the beginning of this training, you want to follow these instructions. We're going to talk about sending files. So you want to make sure that you're signed into My View Board whiteboard. What that means is in this bottom right corner, that is your picture and your login. As long as you are logged into your whiteboard, then what you're going to do is you're going to click on your screen name in the upper left corner. When you do that, this QR code and your URL appear. Students can scan the QR code, you can scan the QR code, or go to the URL. You'll see this is what it would look like for a student or someone else trying to throw something to your screen. So they do have the option they have to enter a display name. It's kind of like Kahoot, where they can enter any name they want. So you want to have good classroom management and make sure that students are entering appropriate names. They'll then have the option to do a pop quiz, a poll, upload a file, or potentially screen share, depending on what device they're on. Not all devices allow screen sharing, so cell phones don't allow screen sharing, but Chromebooks, laptops, those kinds of things do. So if they're sharing a file, they're going to go to this bottom section and click the upload button. And then you as a teacher, you're going to go to your magic toolbox. You're going to click the little paper airplane icon. That's right here. And then anything someone would have thrown to your board would be in here as a thumbnail. As you can see down here on this little image, all you have to do is grab that image and drag and drop it onto your canvas, and then it will be in your My View Board whiteboard for you to manipulate, draw on, interact with, etc. The next thing we're talking about is participating in polls or quizzes. So again, any way you want students to interact with your board, all you have to do is click in the top left corner. You want to display that QR code, that link. You as the teacher, you want to make sure that you've launched your poll or your pop quiz by clicking on those buttons in your magic toolbox. And then for a student view, they would click on the appropriate button, either pop quiz or poll. So you need to make sure that you're communicating with your students in class, hey, we're doing a pop quiz. Make sure you click that button. Or we're completing a poll. Click the right button. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to share your screen, students or staff. You can do this from a Chromebook or a laptop. It helps with portability if you are the teacher and wanting to walk around and display your screen. But you do kind of lose some of the native interactivity that you have with your board. In order to interact with a screen that's being shared, you have to take a screenshot of it and then interact once the screenshot is entered in your whiteboard. You can't just click on the other person's screen and manipulate it that way. In order to do that, you have two icons that we had talked about at the beginning that we would talk about later. We've talked about the one in the top left a lot, where it says your name. That's when you click on it and it comes up with all of how to interact with your board. The other one is up here in the top right. So it defaults to red. What you want to remember is that red means no, they can't share their screen. Green means yes, someone can share their screen. So if that button is red, if you want someone to share their screen, you have to click on the button again when it appears right here to turn it green. Once it turns green, then anyone trying to share their screen will be able to. You can share up to 4 screens at a time. When they do share their screen, you will actually have to approve it. So if you look on this right-hand panel, when they go to share their screen and you click on it, there's a little pop-up with a notification that you've got one person trying to present in to your board. You click on their name and then you can see their screen. The last way is if you have a Windows laptop, you can actually cast to your screen and you can retain touch input on your screen. So essentially, you can be hosting your class from your laptop and be able to still draw on the screen and do all of the things you did before. The key is you want to launch your whiteboard software on your laptop, not on the IFP. Because if you're casting to the IFP, your IFP essentially is just a giant monitor. Your software is running from your laptop. So on your laptop, there's a couple of different steps that you click. And then on your IFP, you'll have to approve the connection. It will show a PIN that you will enter on the desktop. So this is a little bit more complicated, but it works pretty well. The key to being able to write on your screen when you're casting is this step right here. Is you want to make sure that you allow input from either device. That will allow you to control your laptop from the IFP screen or the laptop. Otherwise, you would only be able to control it from the laptop. If this slide went over your head, that is okay. This is not something that you need to do. On this next slide, I have what it looks like on both of the devices. All right, so we've covered all of the informational stuff. The last thing I want to show you is a basic tutorial that will help you get more comfortable with the tools. So there is an activity that the FCPS OIT department made called This or That. And what it does is it allows you to practice using the tools with the MyViewBoard whiteboard software. Your bit.ly is bit.ly/all caps IFP this that. When you come here, you'll notice it looks weird. What you have to do is you have to click this download button in the top right corner. When you do that, in the bottom left now, my file is downloading. Once it downloads, to open it, you'll just click on it in the bottom left and it will automatically launch itself in the whiteboard software as long as you have it installed on your computer. When it comes to this IFP this or that activity, there on the last slide it tells you to use the QR code feature that we talked about earlier. That QR code feature is not working for people with new MyViewBoard accounts, so you'll get an error. Don't worry about completing that slide or uploading your evidence to the bit.ly that's on there. That's the Office of OIT's bit.ly. That's not something that I need you to do for us here at Bryan Station. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, schedule a time with me using the link in my signature, and I'm happy to help. I hope this training was helpful.